Hello, everyone. I hope everyone can hear me. My name is Shannon McGINNIS. I am the Director of Education for Collaborative Arts Institute of Chicago. I'm also one of the founding board members of CAIC. Welcome to Heard Over the Piano. I'm very excited that you have decided to join us tonight on what is another kind of very busy night in the United States. I know a lot of us are very interested in all of the goings on with the election and are eagerly watching results roll in. And I appreciate your taking time to be with us this evening. Before I introduce our guests for the evening, I would invite you, please, to share with us any comments, or if you're having any issues with sound, or if you have questions or comments that you would like to share with us, please share those in the comments, and I'll be monitoring those as we have our conversation. I'd also like to let you know about an event that we have coming up on the education side of our programming, coming up this Saturday from 5 to 8 o'clock p.m. Central. We will be joined on Friday with conductor and keyboardist Michael Petzak, who will be leading us in a lecture all around Polish song. The lecture is entitled A Nation's Voice, Poland Through Its Language, Poetry, and Songs. This is part one of a three-part educational series that will explore Polish song repertoire with Michael Petzak. And the event on Saturday is free and open to all, to musicians, to non-musicians, to people simply interested in music, interested in language, interested in the history of Poland. Some of you may have tuned into last week's episode with Michael Petzak, where we talked a little bit about his experience with the Polish repertoire and Polish language. And this promises to be a really exciting and interesting lecture on Saturday. We'll begin at 5 o'clock p.m. With a conversation around the history of Poland. And then we'll transition from there into a conversation around significant poets and composers of Polish art song. And then we'll wrap up in our third segment with a conversation about Polish language and lyric diction. In December, singers and pianists will have an opportunity to have one-on-one individual language coachings with Michael Petzak. So please stay tuned for that. And in January, there will be an opportunity for Chicago-based singers and pianists to participate in a masterclass around Polish song. Detailed information can be found on our website at www.caichicago.org. So if you're interested in any of these opportunities, please take a look at the website. And the Zoom link for Saturday's lecture can be found there as well. So tonight I am really excited to be joined by four incredible young women who are terrific artists, entrepreneurs, and inspiring leaders. And each of these young women is an important part of the CAIC family. Each of them is or was or has been a member of a participant in our Vocal Chamber Music Fellowship program. Our Vocal Chamber Music Fellowship program began about 5 years ago with the purpose of providing mentorship opportunities and, mentorship opportunities, vocal coaching, performance and educational opportunities for young aspiring pianists and singers, specifically with an interest in art, song, and vocal chamber music. So as I said, we began this program about 5 years ago. We've had 3 iterations of the Vocal Chamber Music Fellowship, and we thought it would be interesting to have some of the young artists who have participated and one artist who is currently involved in that program to join us tonight and tell us a little bit about their careers, about their journeys, and about their experience with the Vocal Chamber Music Fellowship. So without further ado, I will invite Anna, Bridget, Margaret, and Natalie to join us in the room, and we will begin our conversation. There we are. Hi, everyone. It's so good to see you all in the same space. It's been far too long since we've all been able to be together, and I really appreciate your taking the time to be with us tonight. As I alluded to in our introduction, it's a busy night in the United States. I know we're all a Twitter, so I appreciate your taking time away from staring at screens and keeping fingers crossed, etc., to join us and have a nice conversation about what's going on in your lives. So I thought that we would get started by just having each of you introduce yourselves very briefly. Tell us your names, kind of where you are in the world right now, and a little bit about what's going on in your professional lives these days. Obviously, things are a little odd for all of us in the world, in the music industry currently, but tell us a bit about yourselves. Bridget, why don't we start with you?
Hello, Shannon. Thank you so much for the invitation. It's so good to be here and in such good company. I am currently in Chicago, and I continue to be a co-artistic director of Fourth Coast Ensemble, which is the group that first brought me to CAIC. And just in the past couple of years, I joined as a company member with Chicago Fringe Opera, which is another Chicago-based organization dedicated to contemporary chamber opera in the English language. And like so many artists these days, I'm doing a lot of recording, a lot of getting very comfortable with my USB microphone, and re-envisioning what it looks like to be an artist and to create art in a time when we can't be in the same room with each other. It's very interesting, it has its struggles, but those little moments where you do get to make art remind you of why it's all worthwhile.
Very beautifully stated. And I'm seeing we're all nodding our heads, and I'm sure people out in the world are nodding their heads in agreement about these unique challenges. So Bridget was a member of the inaugural cohort of Vocal Chamber Music Fellows, and we'll look forward to hearing from her a little bit more about that experience momentarily. Margaret, tell us a bit about yourself, where you are in the world, and what's going on these days.
Hi, I'm excited to be here. As Bridget said, it's amazing to get to see all of your faces and be present with you all on such a crazy night. I am in Chicago. Since we left Artful Song, left our fellowship with CAIC, I really have fallen in love with actually helping other people make noises. So I actually apprenticed my voice teacher and now have my own studio here in Chicago, and I'm currently starting a company for corporate speech and communication, so that kind of non-singers can also learn their bodies and learn how to make sounds that support them in their work. So.
Oh, fascinating. I look forward to hearing a bit more about that as well. Natalie, tell us about yourself.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, sorry, I echo what everyone's saying. It's so nice to see people without masks on. I think this is the first time I put on lipstick in probably months. It's great to be here. So I was in Chicago for about 7 years, but then my husband and I moved to Ann Arbor, and I'm currently at the University of Michigan, and I'm almost halfway done with the DMA program there in collaborative piano. And so obviously this year has been much different than expected, but we are doing a hybrid year. So some of my classes are online, and I'm actually in person at the school quite a bit. So we've found a way to safely do recitals. I was able to finally perform one of my recitals this fall. And actually, shout out to the opera. They are going to be filming the opera tonight and tomorrow. So no audience, but we've managed to put that together this semester. So yes, a lot of interesting circumstances. And yeah, I'm really, really happy to be in this program.
Terrific. That's great. Natalie has the distinction of being the only pianist who has been one of our vocal chamber music fellows. So we'll hear about her experience a little more as well. And finally, Anna, our current member of the program. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Again, happy to see everyone's faces and looking forward to the day we can all collaborate in person. I am, like Shannon said, presently the Vocal Chamber Music Fellow with CAIC. I'm Chicago-based after a few years in and out. I am putting down roots. Chicago is home base now. It's very exciting. And I'm excited to dive into the Chicago artistic community a little bit more. When things shut down, I was in the middle of previews at Lincoln Center Theater for Ricky Ian Gordon's world premiere of Intimate Apparel, an opera based on Lynn Nottage's play. And so we were a week and a half from opening night. So it took me a while to deal with the ups and downs of putting in all that hard work and not quite getting to opening night. But I am continuing to dive into some independent projects. Shannon and I are putting our heads together on something that will come out very soon. But also working on some passion projects and bringing those to fruition, and also taking some time to really dive into my voice, technique, and exploring things that I just love to sing just because. So that freedom has been really exciting.
Wonderful. Yeah, you know, it's a common thread among all of us that there were plans in the works, kind of things moving forward when the world sort of changed overnight about 8 months ago. And I think it's so inspiring to see how folks are adapting and moving forward and managing to make wonderful things happen kind of in academia and out in the world, despite the challenges. So kudos to you all for persevering. I think it takes an enormous amount of optimism and bravery to continue moving forward in the way that you all are. So I admire that very much. Bridget, since you are one of the original and actually one of the inspirations for this program actually existing at all, tell us a little bit about where you were in life when our paths crossed in 2014, 2015, something like that. And just tell us a bit about that and what led you to us and how that all went for you.
Certainly. When we crossed paths right at the beginning of, I think, 2014, it was just 2 years postgraduate for me. I'm a graduate of Oklahoma City University, and I had made some contacts in Chicago through various young artist training programs that I had been a part of in previous years. And knowing that I wanted to move to a more metropolitan place where there would be more opportunity to have a career as a classical musician, I hedged my bets and I moved to Chicago. So I'd been in Chicago about 2 years, and right around this time, I was just starting to meet people, and I was taking every opportunity I could. And as I'm hearing you talk about, just meeting people in a new city, it really took me back. I was taking every opportunity I could just to meet people, to sing for people, to build relationships and bridges in Chicago. And I had made a friend who was about the same age as me, a couple years postgraduate, Zach Vanderberg. And the previous summer, I had learned and performed the Brahms Liebeslieder waltzes as a young artist at Pittsburgh Festival Opera. And Zach had this idea that we should band together and get a quartet together to sing the Brahms Liebeslieder waltzes. And while we were at it, well, there's a lot of other great repertoire for vocal quartet, so why don't we just sing a bunch of that? And what if we turned it into an ensemble? And it kind of snowballed over the course of a year. And maybe 9 months or a year into this idea, this kind of experiment that we had, we met Shannon and CAIC. And I think at the time you were sort of thinking about starting some kind of a fellowship program, and we were just ripe for the picking. We had a lot of great ideas, and we were still at that moment a little bit loosely formed, and we could have really used some guidance at that time. So it was a perfect match, and we spent 2 years as the Vocal Chamber Music Fellows. And as I'm sure anyone who's been a part of an ensemble before can commiserate, there's a lot of change in those couple of years. And it was really great to have guidance, some formal mentors at CAIC that we could go to and just kind of talk about strategically, what do we want this ensemble to be? Is it something that we're just doing to kind of get by and gig on, or do we want to create something more formal, like a concert series? And it did start to grow into a more kind of formal organization. And here we are, 6 or almost 7 years later, and we're an established ensemble in Chicago. We not only produce our own Chicago-based concert series, but we're the Chicago presenters of Song Slam, which is an art song competition. And we have commissioned a couple of pieces. This past January, we recorded a CD for Lori Laitman, and we're getting ready to do some more recording in the year ahead. So, those first couple of years where everything was kind of loose and ad hoc, I look back at now, and I see a lot of potential there, but I also see how far we've come.
Absolutely. It was, as you mentioned, such a happy accident almost that we found each other at the time that we did, because, CAIC at the time was looking for ways to really expand its educational reach and really to form longer lasting relationships with young artists than we had been able to do before. And you all were such a wonderful part of our family. Anyone who's listening out there or watching and who has been to our events, you've seen our Vocal Chamber Music Fellows on stage in master classes, in salon and house concerts, and also manning the ticket table and pouring wine and making sure everybody has cookies. So they're really such a wonderful part of the family, and it's a terrific symbiotic relationship. And we're also proud of how far Fourth Coast has come. I remember the very first coaching of those Brahms Liebeslieder waltzes and how beautiful you all sounded together, and what a journey you took with that repertoire, and just seeing all the work that you're doing now in Chicago and what a force you are in our musical community is a really inspiring thing. Very, very proud and happy for you.
Thank you.
Terrific. Yeah, absolutely. Moving on to Margaret and Natalie, who are part of the same cohort. So as Bridget mentioned, she and the members of Fourth Coast Ensemble at the time stayed with us for 2 years. They were succeeded by Margaret and Natalie and soprano Lee Folta. And I'd like to start, actually, if we may, Natalie, since you're the only pianist that we've had with us so far, tell us a little bit about that experience and about where you were when you all found.
Yeah, we were, I guess I was recently graduated as well. And when Artful Song formed, it was such a joy to be approached by 2 amazing singers who had such a passion for art song, but also really wanted to find a partner who shared that. And they didn't just want to kind of hire a pianist for one-off events. They made it really clear to me that we could really form something special together and be a 3-person team and really pour ourselves into this repertoire and into the friendships too. I think that was such a gift that continues from that time. So yeah, I'm so thankful for the time that we've had, and I'm sure we'll find ways to continue that as well. But yeah, it was a really great opportunity to coach repertoire together with you and prepare for a number of different events and concerts in Chicago. And I think one thing that I learned during that time was the value of being able to perform repertoire multiple times, because I think a lot of times in the academic world and even in the professional world, you quickly put something together, you perform it, and then you have to move on to the next project. And I think one thing I really enjoyed about Artful Song and about coaching some of this repertoire over several different several different months and several different concerts of the same program or a program that we tweaked, that gave us the opportunity to just reach a comfort level with each other and with that repertoire that exceeded a lot of other experiences, I think, when you're just jumping to the next thing. So that was really a wonderful takeaway from that time. And I think also having the opportunity to volunteer and come to CAIC events, I think that just inspires us in terms of programming. At least it really has for me. I especially remember one of the concerts you performed the Book of Hanging Gardens and had dancers involved. And I thought, man, how neat that this organization is bringing other art forms in as well to this collaborative focus. And that was really inspiring to me. So yeah, those are a few thoughts so far.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for that. Margaret, tell us a little bit more about your experience with CAIC and Artful Song and where you were in your journey when we found each other.
Yeah, well, I met you in grad school.
Yes.
And aggressively pursued you to be my coach.
I remember, Margaret.
It was shameless. It was shameless. No, I was a soprano when Artful Song started, which is the irony of all ironies now. It was Lee and I, and yeah, I think we found you guys really through you. We found CAIC through you. Lee and I met at like a career day, like I forget what Dana calls it, but anyways, I'd had this idea of wanting to make concerts happen in people's houses since I was a violinist. When I was growing up, I thought music needed to be in homes, and I was just saying it, and Lee said, "Oh, I'd love that." So we decided to start it without even listening to each other sing, which there's a lot of trust there. When we found Natalie, I think it just clicked, when you meet someone who's wow, our energies worked so well together. And we just had such a beautiful friendship, from the beginning of our work together, and it's just bloomed. And I think then we found you guys, and it went from 3 young women who really liked each other and really liked Art Song. And again, as Natalie said, we got the opportunity to really kind of understand what it was like to know a program, know a program from inside out and learn how to take risks together. And I think watching all of us grow as artists, because I think also those 2 years were really formative years for all 3 of us. We did a lot of growing up musically and technically. And I think watching us grow and grow inside those programs and grow as teammates and collaborators, it's thrilling and very exciting, and definitely changed how I see collaboration and how I see opportunity for music making. I no longer look at notes and rhythms. I look at how we can create kind of a message together. And I think being in coachings with Natalie and hearing Natalie get coached helped me understand the role of a collaborative pianist in a different way. And really, I just think we grew up and went from being students to kind of artists not that we weren't before. I guess that's harsh, but you know what I'm saying?
No, I think that resonates with a lot of people who have participated in an intense kind of program, and we all grow, hopefully. I hope I'm still growing. That resonates with me a lot. I think it's really nice to hear, you both, Natalie and Margaret, and also Bridget spoke to this, to speak about the relationship that you build as you form these ensembles, the relationships that you build. And for both of your groups, it's so exciting always to watch your performances, and you really see that energy, the friendship and the respect that you have for one another really comes through in your work, and it's always so inspiring to see, and I think that audiences truly respond to that as well. That's great. Anna, tell us a bit. You are our newest vocal chamber music fellow, and it's been a crazy year. So tell us a bit about what's going on with you and about how you came to us.
Sure. So Shannon, I think we worked together in that weird 6 months that I was in Chicago in 2014, 2015. And I found you through our mutual friend and colleague, James Barnett, who runs Loft Recital in Minneapolis. And he kind of set me on this path of introducing me to you, but also instilling a really deep love of song for me. And so thankful to him for that. But I think we started working together initially on arias. And again, I think our musical styles, our personalities just really clicked. So after a few years away and coming in and out of Chicago, I feel like I was being forced into a sort of crossroads artistically that I was really pushing back against. And it was kind of this idea of opera or everything else. And for me, I found myself really rejecting that as mutually exclusive paths that you have to decide which to be on. And so through that, I had talked to Shannon a little bit, and we kind of decided that this would be a good place for me to continue building out some of the projects outside of opera that I'm really passionate about, and where I feel like I can really use my artistic voice in a different way. And with, the great cohort of mentors, Nicholas Hutchinson, Nick Pon, yourself, I think there's something different that I'm really looking forward to learning from each of our interactions, as well as developing some of these projects and becoming more, I don't want to say more entrepreneurial, but more, maybe more like of a concentrated focus on how to take all these ideas, because I'm an idea person. Sometimes I just need a little help, like bringing it in, narrowing it, and helping see it through. So I think I'm really looking forward to the work together that we're doing to help me move these projects forward that I feel really passionate about, and showing everyone that you don't have to choose opera or everything else, that you can do both, and doing that will inform your other stuff too. Okay, I'm done.
No, I love that. Keep talking about that. That's excellent. I'm so inspired by each of you. I know that you all have a kind of file folder and a running list of ideas and projects that you want to pursue. Anna, tell us a little bit about something that you're working on right now that is particularly exciting, and where things are with that.
Sure. So over the summer, I continued developing a project that my director and friend and colleague, John De Los Santos, developed a few years ago. It's called The Rose and the Knife, and it's a staged narrative of Berlioz' Les Nuits and Mahler's Songs of a Wayfarer. And it's a really beautifully crafted new narrative that takes the intense poetry and dynamic imagery created in the music and tells the story of two characters who are forever in love and never on the same page. We've performed this live as a staged project, but now we're looking to adapt it as a digital project. So we are in the very early stages of producing a short film of the piece, and we're currently looking just to see how many other venues and producers we can take this project to. It's a really beautiful new narrative, and I think one that shows how limitless creativity can be within this idea of art song, as it were. So I'm really excited to continue developing that project right now.
That's fantastic. That kind of opens the door naturally for another kind of conversation line of questioning I have for all of you about kind of maybe a two-part question. First is why art song? What attracted each of you to that particular genre? And also where you see things headed as we navigate this rather unique time in our industry and in the country. And I will open the floor for whoever would like to get us started on that conversation. Anybody? Why art song? That's a good place to start.
I'll start.
Yeah, do it, Natalie.
So I think for me, one of the most exciting things to me about art song is just the possibility for text painting in both the piano and the voice. Anytime that's happening, that I can nerd out on that so much. I just love that. Because, and then when you can learn what the singer's doing to bring out certain words or ideas, and that it impacts the way I play and vice versa, when I can point something out that they can react to, and there's something else being created. It's not just poetry, it's not just music, there's this other creation that is coming to life, and it's just so multifaceted. So I love the possibility for painting the text along with a partner.
That's great. Any interesting projects you have that you're working on right now, Natalie?
You know, over the summer, I started actually recording some episodes for a podcast that celebrate art song and kind of highlight collaborative pianists and our collaborators. And some of the episodes will dissect a song in a way and say, hey, here's what the text says, and what can we hear that paints those ideas in the music. And so I've had some of my colleagues who've recorded songs. I've had them kind of go through some of those things, and we'll play musical clips. So I'm still editing this, but it's a goal of mine to start releasing some of those. And yeah, it's just, I love art songs so much. So.
Oh, that's terrific. Keep us posted about that. We would love to hear
absolutely.
when that's all ready to go.
Yeah.
Bridget, how about you? Why art song for you? And what's kind of coming up in your great brain here?
Well, art song just kind of organically made its way into my life. As a high schooler, I was really focusing on theater. I was a storyteller. I loved telling stories. I loved being in plays, and I was in a bunch of Shakespeare plays and musicals, and that was just what I wanted to do. I wanted to tell stories and be up on stage and be a part of that. And I had a great voice teacher who heard potential in my voice and gave me some art songs and arias. Probably the first art songs that I learned were like Après un rêve, anyone?
Yes.
And I probably learned some of the 24 Italian songs and arias. Those are probably some of the first classical things that I sang. And I just loved the challenge of it. I loved the challenge of learning to make different sounds, and that kind of striving, and that element that there's always something more to learn. The combination of music and languages and just artistry and texture. It seemed to be something that I could really spend years digging into and studying and loving. So I went to college for classical music, getting a vocal performance degree, but it was really through kind of the formal collegiate program where you have to do a junior recital and a senior recital that I started to understand that art song was a thing. You know, all classical singing isn't a monolith. And I loved putting together my junior recital, and all it had to be was 30 minutes. But I mean, I was obsessed with this 30-minute recital I was putting together. I made flyers, I like pasted them everywhere around the music school. And I just loved being able to get to choose the music, because when you're cast in a production, often it's cast by voice type, by vocal fach. And I just loved the sense of autonomy that I had as an artist when I got to choose the music, and I got to maybe sing something that was a little bit weird and, you know, mix and match music from different eras and tell a story. So it all just goes back to kind of, I think, my basic desire to be a storyteller and to be up on stage telling different kinds of stories. But I particularly love crafting a recital. And yeah, like Anna said, and like everyone else has said, there's just something really lovely about art song and the ability that we have to tell these, to take these songs, and you could just stand there and look straight out at the audience with no costume, no makeup or anything, and you're transporting people to a different world just by singing the song. They create this kind of little bubble of time. So.
Oh, I love that. And, you know, the opportunity to be your own director when you craft a recital and when you kind of build this world in poetry and song, I think is, you mentioned autonomy, and that really resonates with me as well, that there's not someone on the outside kind of moving you around and telling you where to go and what to do. It's all in your own artistry. I think that's terrific. Margaret, what about you and what drew you to art song originally?
Yeah, I mean, I think I identify with everything that's already been said. But I think for me, as a musician, I've always been drawn to intimate ensemble settings. So I grew up playing the violin, and my favorite way to play was always in quartets, trios, quintets. And I think like finding art song, I was like, this is it. This is my way to do that as a singer. And I love the idea of being independent and a part of a collaborative team at the same time. And I love the immediacy that you can make choices when you're that close and that connected to all of the musicians that you're performing with. So I know that, and this is something I feel really lucky to have been able to do. Like, I feel like Natalie and I know each other so well at this point that in every concert we do, we can make split-second choices that are totally different. We've never done it before, and I know Natalie will be there. I know Lee will be there, and it's like so thrilling. And I think that in a bigger setting, you can't, it's kind of like moving an army, in the same way. And you're, again, not the leader, as you were saying, you're not your own director. So I think that flexibility and the power over those individual moments that we have in our decision making and also the nuance we can get as a team. Again, going back to that idea, I think that to me is like just the coolest and most fun way of making music. So.
That's great. I love all of those comments and points of view. Bridget, I meant to ask if you and Fourth Coast have anything kind of in the works. You mentioned some recording projects that are tell us a little bit about what you have coming up.
Sure. So we're putting things together for an announcement for some things that'll be coming down the pipeline in the new year. We're hoping to actually record our first debut solo album. So
wow.
Yeah, so that'll be
exciting.
A good notch in our belt. Coming up on our 7th year, we thought this is a good time. And we've got a couple of commissions that we want to memorialize. And it just felt like the right time. In the course of a regular busy year, it's challenging just to find enough time to rehearse our regular concert season. So we're trying to use this time as almost a gift. This is time that we wouldn't typically have to go and really spend the time to record our debut CD. So that's coming down the line, and probably some virtual concerts, of course.
Yes.
So we're putting things together to put together our announcement, but keep an eye on the Fourth Coast website, on our
Yeah.
page. There will be more information soon.
Absolutely. We look forward to that. Margaret, you were telling me about, and you mentioned this a little bit in your introduction, about a new business that you're developing right now. And I would love to hear a bit more about that. I think this is really timely and really important and fascinating. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. In my time as a teacher, I've really fallen in love with helping people find their sounds. In my journey as a teacher, I've actually found myself working a lot with speech. And so this new company is basically aiming at helping people utilize their voices to I'm not saying this well.
Beautifully.
Helping people learn their voices so that they can use it as a tool to communicate. So, like when you listen to somebody say something and what their words are saying and what their sound is saying are two conflicting things, how can we teach people this is your voice, here are all of your color options, your sound options, and then here's how you can kind of utilize that so that you can be more clear and efficient and and concise with how you're communicating to other people. And I think we see right now a lot of miscommunication happening. I think there's a big hole. And I feel really strongly that every human deserves to know their voice. It's so powerful to know what's going to come out of your body when you go to make sounds. And I think that we take it for granted as people who live in this world where that's accessible. And I think my goal is to make that accessible for people who don't necessarily live in this art world that we do.
I think it's so important, and you mentioned that singers and those of us who live with words in text, that perhaps we take it for granted. But Anna, I wonder how you feel about this. I in my experience with young artists, singers in particular, it can be a very, very difficult challenge to find one's own voice amidst all of the external information coming from you. Anna's nodding her head. Tell us a bit about your experience with that.
Sure. Margaret, first of all, just brava. That is so exciting. And I'm really excited to see where this venture goes. Because as we were all talking about art song, one of the things that I kept hearing over and over in what everyone was saying, what they loved about art song, which I think is a problematic term, but we can talk about that another time, is that song gives us a space to show up as our unique self and to really offer our own interpretations of song with our nuances, our instruments, our own storytelling, like Bridget said. And so anyway, very exciting, Margaret, so thrilled for you. And I think it ties into exactly what Shannon was saying, where I think for a lot of years in training when I was a young artist and in graduate school, there was a lot of emphasis on finding your box. What are you? Define yourself clearly. We need to know what you are. What are your 5 arias? What is your Fach? Don't deviate from this. Don't take too many risks. Let's just do it how it's supposed to be done. And I found that to be aggravating, to say the least. And again, I had wonderful mentors and training. I just think that our art form has moved beyond needing to define yourself within 4 walls. I think now what excites me when I go to a live performance is seeing that artist show up in that music that they have specifically chosen, their relationship with their collaborator. That's what excites me to see, not just someone singing what they've been told to sing or what's going to fit, the idea of what a lyric mezzo-soprano is supposed to be. So I think in my experience, that's what's driven me to want to explore beyond. Maybe I'm a little bit of a rebel right now. I'm feeling very rebellious with this line of conversation, but I truly do believe that if artists are given a chance to make informed risk-taking with a collaborator that they trust and with an organization that believes in their voice, we're going to get a lot more interesting art, and we're not just going to get boring Zoom recitals or virtual recitals or boring anything. We're going to get a lot. You might hate it, you might love it, but we're going to get a lot of things in that spectrum that are going to be very exciting. So yes, I guess I'm a rabble rouser right now, but I believe in it.
I'd love to kind of add to that and say, I totally think that you're awesome for saying that. I think it takes a lot of courage to come out of the educational system and the young artist system, being yourself. I think we're told a lot what to be, so we're attractive to other people. And I think it takes a lot of courage to say, this is who I am. This is my sound. These are my choices. This is my art. I have agency over myself. And I think it's really beautiful and powerful to watch people come into that space. And I think that's one of the things that CAIC does for us as fellows, is kind of allows us to have that space to really find our own agency. And I just think it is thrilling. It's so thrilling to watch people be them, instead of what they're trying to be or what they're supposed to be. And I don't know if that's rebellious, then I say lean in.
I think we need more rebellion. I agree wholeheartedly. And this brings me to sort of this moment in time in our industry and for us as artists, and some uncertainty about what is on the other side when things open up again, and what art will look like. And I've been thinking a lot about what Anna and Margaret just said, that I have this sense that audiences will be ravenous for art making that is personal and intimate and sincere and true. I think we'll want all of the big pomp and circumstance as well, because we love that. But I think we are in a unique opportunity to really embrace this moment. And several of you have said, using this time to focus on yourselves and getting ready for what's to come. And I wonder, you all, we just have about 10 minutes or so left, but I would love for whoever is listening out there to hear from some of you or each of you about the unique challenges that you're facing during this particular time, because we have to be honest about it being extraordinarily difficult, even though you all are optimistic and forward thinking and very courageous. I'd like to hear about some of the challenges if you're comfortable sharing them. Be as specific as you'd like to be. And I'd also love to hear what you're looking forward to on the other side, and kind of what you see happening, where you see things going. So who'd like to get us started with that conversation? Anybody?
I have some
Bridget,
thoughts.
let's do it.
So just from kind of more of a business stance, one of the biggest challenges of being an artist at this time isn't necessarily creating art or putting it out there, it's monetizing it. Because you can make videos till the cows come home and put them up on YouTube, but how do you get people to pay you for your art? And that's, I think, one of the biggest challenges being an entrepreneurial artist, period. When you're not being employed by a big opera company or a big symphony, and someone else isn't taking care of the fundraising and the, cutting the checks at the end of the day, how do you monetize your art? And so this is something that I've really been thinking a lot about and thinking about it deeply. And I don't think that it's helping our profession to be putting so much free art into the ethosphere, if that's a word, into the ether.
The ether, yeah.
Yeah, I think I merged those two words.
I love it.
Because I do think that people are willing to pay for it. But just kind of the technological challenges are, there's not a lot of platforms out there that allow you to monetize videos and online content. And they're starting to come out with more and more. I think the industry is adapting a little bit more. But that's a major challenge. And I think that it's, for those of us who are really trying to make a profession out of our careers, that's a major concern, is how do we continue to get compensated for the work that we're doing? And I think it's something that I hope donors and philanthropists out there are thinking of. I have also, this is just kind of anecdotal, but just kind of watching the arts landscape right now, I do see a huge enthusiasm amongst philanthropists to support the arts. And I think it just speaks to what you said. People are desperate to keep the arts alive and to make sure that live performances are there for us on the other side of this pandemic. And some places are doing a better job than than actually taking care of those artists through this transitional time. But yeah, if I'm just being honest, that's the number one concern, I think.
I think a lot of people share that concern with you. Thank you for being truthful about that. Anna.
I just wanted to add a through line from what Bridget was saying. I think part of the issue with not being able to monetize it is I don't think we can just present our art in a virtual forum like business as usual. I think there needs to be some adaptation to the mediums that we're using right now, to the fact that we have this challenge and opportunity of the digital medium. I think if we give a stand and sing recital right now, that's not going to be interesting enough or opportunistic enough to be something that can be monetized in the same way. I think right now, something that is hard and exciting is finding these new avenues. CAIC, the first word in your title is collaborative. Mm-hmm. And so I think this is a moment where we can learn to be collaborative in a new way and start bringing in other art forms, other genres into our art making and create something new. I think we'll all want to be back in the recital hall and the opera theater at some point. But I think in this moment, it strikes me that we need to be a little more innovative about using the mediums that are presently available. So.
Yeah, potentially sharing resources as well. Margaret.
Yeah, I want to say first, Anna, I can't wait to watch your movie. That's going to be awesome. And I think that's a perfect example of what you were speaking to just now. I think in like a more just like physical way, I think that just making sounds right now. I think a lot of us are feeling like stuck in small spaces. I think a lot of us are feeling like our bodies feel different. Even like how I teach now versus before, I sit all day, whereas before I'd be up and moving and around, but you have to be within your webcam's, frame. And I think that we're singing in either apartments or townhomes or places with neighbors. Whereas before we were able to be in studios with other artists around us. So it was okay to be loud or make ugly sounds. And so I think just adjusting to what it's like to make music in a space that's not musical inherently, and that fear of bothering your neighbors or, ooh, that was ugly. Now I feel uncomfortable and now I don't necessarily want to like commit to doing that again. So I think that's definitely been a challenge during this time. But I think that I feel, for lack of better English for this, I feel like musicians are the best hustlers I know. I feel like we all know how to make it work, and I think that's what we're seeing. And I'm really excited to see everybody's creativity. I feel like this is a moment where everybody who has their long list of ideas, we all go in those directions, and we're seeing incredible things come out of it. And because we're used to kind of doing that and kind of making things work, I think we're going to see are seeing a lot of really cool innovation, which is very exciting. So
that is exciting. Yeah, Natalie.
Yeah, I mean, just hearing your excitement, Margaret, as you're talking about those possibilities, and everyone today, like that, I think that's really contagious. And I actually think, in a way, one of the obstacles is you don't want to lose inspiration because of all the hardships right now, from not being able to be in person or doing like risk assessment all the time of what's safe and worrying about what possibilities are going to even be there. Just, I think if we can do everything we can to protect our joy around music, I think that'll help us be resilient. You know, we have to be resilient. And so I don't know, I think sometimes that means playing your instrument or singing yourself, but sometimes it could mean seeking things out that, you know, always remind you of why you do this. And I don't know, that's just something I've been thinking about ever since March. It's just, how can I continue to protect my joy for what I do, and to be able to do it with freedom and kind of think through why, like what are the bigger whys behind what we do as musicians.
That is so beautifully stated, Natalie. That's perfect. And that's it's just a beautiful place to sort of wrap things up a little bit. I think everything you all have said really resonates with me. And I think we've all experienced everything that you've said to varying degrees. Financial challenges of finding inspiration, challenges of hearing things, not only experiencing our voices differently, as Margaret said, but also how we hear, you know, listening through these little headphones all of the time, and adjusting how we make music in that kind of medium has been quite the challenge. But the fact that we all continue to do it is really quite amazing, right? And the idea of connecting with the joy of it. I'm so grateful for that, Natalie. That was a beautiful, beautiful way to wrap that up. I am so grateful to the four of you for being here. You inspire me as individuals, but then having you as a group is just, it's given me great joy and a wonderful way to wrap up this tumultuous week. And I'll be thinking of this in the days ahead, difficult days ahead, I would imagine. But I look forward to looking back on this conversation and remembering the words of wisdom that you all imparted. And so excited to hear about where each of you are headed on your journeys in the next few months and on the other side, as we say. And look forward to you all keeping in touch with us and keeping us informed of some of those events. So I want to hear about podcasts and commissions and solo albums and new businesses and exciting films. So can't wait to hear about it. And thank you to those of you who are listening out in the world. Have a wonderful weekend. I hope you'll join us on Saturday for A Nation's Voice, Poland through its language, poetry, and songs. That begins at 5 p.m. Central, and all the information can be found on the CAIC website. We look forward to seeing some of you there. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Now I have to figure out how to end this. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
That's the hard part. I don't think I learned how to do that. I really didn't. So I'm just going to keep sitting here talking and figuring out how to go away.